to the African Utility Week and POWERGEN Africa studio. Today I'm talking with Ted Blom on the topic of South Africa's energy sector. Welcome, Ted.
Good morning.
Ted, the first thing I want to ask you is about South Africa and the challenges that we have around changing the course of the energy mix from a fossil fuel base to renewable energy. What are your views on that?
Okay, so I don't think that in this arena we're in a unique space. I think it's a worldwide challenge. Worldwide, there's a lot of forces to try and move or transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. The big problem is that renewable energy suppliers are not yet ready for the transition. And you might ask why, because you see lots of turbines around the world, you see lots of solar panels, but we don't see any storage. And you cannot run an economy on energy that is not dispatchable. And the only way to get it dispatchable, in other words, to have certainty when it's available or not available, is by having adequate backup storage. And at the moment, energy storage is very, very expensive. It's still 10 times more or higher than the current cost of producing the energy. So that doesn't make sense to force the transition faster than what the technology allows. And that's why I'm calling for a balance in input into energy generation. I think from an industrial point of view, from running mines and smelters, you need fossil fuels, and you will need them until the cost of storage comes down to affordable levels. However, for households and light commercial use, certainly they are more amenable to the transition, and they in fact can start and lead the transition to renewable energy.
So are you advocating that in cities, for instance, they have more renewable energy based around the city?
Okay, so I'm far more granular. I think that one needs to look at every user. If you're running a household and you have a timeshare block or a complex that you're living in, if you put in a microgrid and you differentiate your time of use, you could do very well off renewable energy. You don't need too much backup. But if you're a smelting company, smelting manganese or gold or iron ore or foundry or something that's a heavy industrial user, there's no ways that renewable energy, you can't only run for 4 or 5 hours a day, because that's in reality the only availability of renewable energy on average is around 15 to 20%. So you can't only run a daytime operation if you're running a 24/7 smelting or mining operation. And that's why you need to look at it at a granular level and say, this customer is suited to that need. This customer is suited to that need. Otherwise, you're going to foul the system up.
Exactly. So in South Africa, we also want to look at how the renewable energy is then placed onto the grid, and this then look at policy around that. So what are your views on what policy is needed to make this transition?
Okay, firstly, I believe strongly that the grid needs to be open, and I've been very emphatic about that. Restrictive gameplay always results in imbalances in our forces and pricing. So I think the grid needs to be open. It needs to be a free-for-all. Whoever can supply the cheapest power needs to be able to access the grid. Otherwise, you are disadvantaging the South African economy by forcing expensive power into people's throats. Because all they do is they close their businesses, or they consume less. As we've seen, Eskom hasn't sold a kilowatt hour more power in the last 10 years. Why? Because they've priced themselves out of the market, and the industry is closed down because they haven't had alternatives via an open grid.
The price of energy is something that's always on our minds.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the price should come down to below 50 cents a kilowatt hour. Previously it was 40 cents, but there's been a year or two in the making. So it's around about 50 cents a kilowatt hour, which will generate massive job growth. 3 million jobs, I guarantee, plus if we can get the price of energy back. But it doesn't seem like the government forces of the day have got that on their agenda. They seem to be fighting other fights.
Right. Thank you, Ted. And thank you for watching. Subscribe now to our YouTube channel for more industry-related content.